The space station of Varela was a place where thousands of alien species walked the same metal streets. Tall, blue-skinned merchants sold strange glowing fruits from floating carts. Silver-scaled guards patrolled the high glass corridors that overlooked the stars. Loud ships came and went, carrying goods, soldiers, and secrets. It was a city in the sky, but not everyone who lived here felt welcome. Leora walked alone through the crowded learning halls of the station's academy. She was small, much smaller than the other children her age. Her hair was black, her skin a soft shade between human and alien, and her eyes carried the faint silver shine of her father's people. She was a hybrid, half human, half Relian. In this part of the galaxy, that was enough to make her different, and different was dangerous. The other students saw her as a joke. They whispered and pointed when she walked by. Some called her half-blood, others weakling. She never fought back, never shouted, never even looked angry. She simply lowered her head and kept walking. But inside, the words cut deep, each one leaving a mark she could not erase. That day in training class, the instructor had brought the students to the sparring arena. The floor was covered with silver tiles that lit up when touched. Around the ring, alien children of all shapes and colors laughed and shouted as they took turns practicing combat drills. Leora stood at the edge, her hands held together, hoping. No one would notice her. Leora, the instructor, called in a bored tone. "Your turn." She stepped forward slowly. Her opponent was a tall boy from a species with 4 arms and skin like polished stone. His name was Vorik, and he was one of the worst bullies in the academy. He smiled in a way that showed too many teeth. "You ready, little half-blood?" he said loud enough for everyone to hear. The other students laughed. The instructor gave the signal. Vorik moved fast, swinging one heavy arm to push her back. Leora dodged, but he caught her with his second arm, shoving her to the ground. The silver tiles flashed under her as she fell. The crowd laughed louder. She stood up, breathing slowly, trying to stay calm. She knew she could defend herself. She had always known, but her parents had warned her never to fight too hard, never to show what she could really do. So she stepped lightly, keeping her guard up, hoping to end the match quickly without trouble. But Vorik was not interested in a fair match. He kept pressing, hitting her with blow after blow. Each time she stumbled, he smirked wider. Then he grabbed her arm and whispered so only she could hear. "Your kind does not belong here." Something inside Leora tightened. The air felt colder. Her vision narrowed. For just a moment, her heart pounded with something more than fear. It was anger, deep, burning anger. She pulled back, but Vorik shoved her again, this time harder. Her knees hit the floor. The laughter around her echoed, like thunder, and then it happened. Her eyes flashed. Just for a second, a bright silver light burned in them, like the reflection of a distant star. The light was faint but sharp, and Vorik froze, his grip loosening. She blinked quickly, forcing the light away before anyone else could see. The instructor called the match over. "Vorik wins," he said, barely looking at Leora as she stepped out of the ring. The crowd moved on to the next match, forgetting her as quickly as they had mocked her. But Vorik did not forget. He kept staring after her, frowning, as if he had seen something he could not explain. Leora left the arena without speaking to anyone. She walked through the long glass hallway, the stars stretching forever outside. She wished she could disappear into that endless black. She wished she could go back to her family's small quarters and never come out again. When she reached home, her mother, a human woman with warm eyes and tired hands, greeted her with a quiet smile. Her father, tall and strong, with the silver eyes of the Relian race, was seated at the table. They could both see the faint sadness in her face. Did something happen at school? Her mother asked softly. Leora hesitated. She wanted to tell them about the match, about the light, about how close she had come to losing control. But she knew what they would say. She had heard it her whole life. Never show them. Never let it out. No, she said finally. Just another day. Her father studied her for a moment longer, as if he could see the truth in her silence. But he said nothing. That night, Leora lay in her small bed, staring at the ceiling. The hum of the station's engines filled the room like a slow heartbeat. She remembered the way Varric had looked at her when her eyes flashed. She remembered the sharp stillness in that moment, as if the whole world had paused. Somewhere deep inside, she knew she was not weak. She knew she carried something powerful, something dangerous. But she also knew the galaxy was not ready to see it. She turned on her side and closed her eyes. Outside, the station floated among the stars, but far beyond its walls, in the cold, dark space, a shadow was moving, and it was moving toward her. The shadow moving toward Varela Station was not a ship the locals would recognize. It had no bright hull, no glowing engines. It drifted like a piece of darkness cut from space itself, its shape shifting as if made from smoke. Only those who knew the deep secrets of the galaxy could name it a hunter-class vessel from the Imperial Directorate. And those ships never came without reason. Leora had no idea such a thing was drawing near. She woke the next morning to the gentle voice of her mother calling her to breakfast. The smell of warm grain bread filled their small quarters. Her father was already dressed in his work armor, ready to leave for his shift in the stations. Repair bays, you seem tired, her mother said as Leora sat down. I did not sleep well, Leora answered truthfully. She had dreamt of the fight with Varric over and over, the flash of light in her eyes replaying again and again. Her father's gaze lingered on her a moment too long. You remember what we have told you, he said slowly. Yes, father. She replied quietly. He did not have to explain. The warning had been repeated her entire life. Never use the gift. Never let anyone see. Because if they did, the Empire would come for her that morning. As her father left for work, Leora walked to the academy again, her steps slow, but something felt different in the air. The station's corridors seemed too quiet, the usual background. Hum of people talking and laughing felt thinner, as if the whole place was holding its breath. Halfway to class, she saw them, two tall figures in dark, smooth armor that reflected no light. Their helmets hid their faces, but the mark on their shoulders was unmistakable. Imperial Directorate, soldiers of the galaxy's most feared ruling power. They were speaking to one of the Academy's staff members, showing him a small holodevice. Leora's heart began to pound. She slipped into a side corridor, trying not to be seen. She could not explain why, but she knew in her bones they were. Here for her, the rest of the day at the Academy passed in slow dread. She noticed one of the soldiers standing at the back of the training hall, silent, scanning the students with an expressionless helmet. She kept her eyes down, hoping he would not notice her. But at one point, she looked up and saw him staring directly at her. Even through the black glass of the visor, she felt his gaze like ice on her skin. After class, she hurried home, but when she reached her family's door, she froze. Standing just across the hall was one of the soldiers. He seemed to be waiting. Her father opened the door before she could call for him. His eyes moved from her to the soldier in an instant, narrowing dangerously. "May I help you?" her father asked in a voice that was calm but edged with steel. The soldier tilted his head slightly. "We are searching for an unregistered hybrid with unusual genetic traits. Have you seen anyone who matches this description?" He held out a small holly-midge. The picture was not clear, but it was close enough to make Leora's stomach twist. It was her, blurred, captured in the moment her eyes had flashed during training. Her father did not look at the image. "I have seen no such person," he said. Firmly the soldier paused, as if weighing his words. Then he leaned in slightly, his voice dropping lower. "We will find her. Tell her she cannot hide forever." He turned and walked away without another word. Inside, her father closed the door and locked it. Her mother's face was pale. "What did they want?" she asked. "They know," her father said simply. Leora felt the room tilt around her. "I did not mean to," her father raised a hand. "It is not your fault. They have been searching for someone like you for years. This was only a matter of time." Her mother took Leora's hands in her own. "We will keep you safe," she whispered. But Leora could see in her mother's eyes the fear that those words might be a lie. That night they did not sleep. Her father sat by the door with a plasma cutter, ready for a fight. Her mother kept looking at the clock, listening for footsteps in the hall. Leora lay on her bed, staring at the shadows on the ceiling, feeling the weight of the danger pressing in from all sides. She thought about the stories her father had told her when she was younger. Stories about the Relian warriors who could bend the very laws of nature with their will. They had been unstoppable until the Empire had hunted them down to extinction. Now she was the only one left who carried that blood, and now the Empire knew where she was. In the early hours of the morning, a soft hum shook the walls. Leora moved to the small window in her room. Outside, beyond the station's edge, a dark shape was moving closer. It was not lit by running lights, and it seemed to swallow the stars. Around it, the Hunter-class ship had arrived, and it had come for her. The day began like a storm hiding behind clear skies. The dark ship had docked with the station during the night. Few had seen it arrive, and those who had were smart enough not to speak about it. The Imperial Directorate worked in silence. When they hunted without mercy. Leora woke with a dull ache in her chest, as if the air was too heavy. Her father was gone before sunrise, called to an urgent repair job on the outer docking ring. Her mother stayed close to her, urging her to skip academy lessons. But Leora knew that absence would raise questions. If the soldiers were watching, they might see fear as a confession. So she went. The corridors to the academy seemed longer that morning. The hum of the station felt deeper, louder, like some hidden machine was awake and listening. Twice she caught sight of soldiers in dark armor standing near doorways, scanning the crowds. Each time, her heartbeat quickened. She kept her head down by midday. She had almost convinced herself she could finish the day unnoticed. But the universe had other plans. Training hall, combat drills. Varik was waiting. The tall, four-armed bully smirked when he saw her step inside. Well, the half-blood returns," he said loudly, drawing the attention of everyone nearby. "I was hoping for another match." The instructor glanced at Leora, perhaps sensing tension, but said nothing. The students gathered, eager for a show. Leora stepped into the ring because refusing would only make her seem weaker. She told herself she could avoid trouble. She would block a few strikes, step back, and let the match end. No power, no risk. Signal sounded. Varric came forward fast, his heavy steps making the tiles flash beneath him. The first strike came hard. Leora dodged. The second, she blocked. The crowd jeered and laughed. "Come on, fight back," Varric shouted. She stayed on defense, moving light on her feet. But Varric was not playing for points. He wanted to humiliate her. A sudden grab from his lower left arm pulled her off balance, and his upper right slammed into her shoulder. Pain shot down her side. The crowd laughed louder, and then she heard it again. "You do not belong here," he hissed. The words echoed the same way they had in the last fight. Something inside her flared. Not just anger, something deeper, older, as if the voice of another self was calling from within. She tried to push it down, but Varric struck her across the face. Her head snapped to the side. The laughter blurred into a distant roar. The air around her seemed to thicken. The lights above flickered once, twice. Then the sound came, a low, rising hum from nowhere and everywhere. Her skin prickled. Her silver-tinged eyes glowed faintly. Then brighter, the light bleeding into the air like mist. The floor trembled. The nearest students stepped back, confusion turning into fear. Varric froze mid-step, a look of shock replacing his grin. Leora moved, not fast in the human sense, but in a way that bent the space between moments. One step, and she was suddenly in front of him. Her hand touched his chest lightly. A pulse of shimmering force rippled outward, sending him flying across the ring like a rag doll. Gasps erupted from the crowd. The silver tiles beneath her feet cracked, glowing brighter than they ever had. The instructor shouted something, but his voice was lost in the ringing AirDot security drones burst into the hall, their lenses glowing red. They scanned the scene. One captured her image, locking onto the glow in her eyes. Data flashed silently across invisible networks. Somewhere far above, aboard the Hunter-class ship, an Imperial officer received the feed. He watched the brief moment of unleashed power with a slow, thin smile. "Found her," he said. Leora's vision cleared slowly, the silver glow fading from her eyes. She saw the fear in every face around her. Even the instructor stepped back as if she was something dangerous. Her heart pounded in her ears. The drones hovered closer, without thinking. She ran. She darted through the training hall exit, down a maintenance corridor. She could hear the drones following, their engines buzzing like angry insects. She slid around a corner, ducked under a half-open bulkhead door, and pressed herself into the shadows. Her breath came fast. She knew this was not over. The drones had recorded everything. The soldiers would come now, not just to question, but to take. Footsteps echoed in the corridor ahead. 2 soldiers in black armor appeared, moving with cold precision. One lifted a small scanning device. It beeped sharply, locking onto her position. Leora's muscles tensed, but her mind spun. She could not fight them all, not yet. She slipped through a side hatch into an old service tunnel. The lights were dim, the air stale. She moved quickly, remembering her father's stories of hidden paths through the station, the kind known only to repair crews. Behind her, the soldiers' voices carried through the tunnels. "Do not harm her. The commander wants her alive." Alive, she kept running until the tunnel opened into a wide maintenance bay. From here, the stars were visible through the open docking ports, and in one of those ports she saw it, the dark Hunter-class ship, waiting like a predator in still water. She froze. Even from this distance, she felt its pull, and then she heard a voice behind her, smooth, cold and certain. You cannot hide from what you are. She turned. The Imperial commander was standing there. His helmet was off, revealing pale skin, and sharp silver eyes that mirrored her own, but colder, older. I have been searching for you for a very long time, he said. For a moment, Leora could not move. The commander's voice seemed to fill the entire bay, sinking into her bones. His presence was heavy, like the air itself bowed around him. Every step he took toward her was slow, measured, and unshakable. I know what you are, he said softly, though the words carried like steel through the stillness. I know the blood that runs in your veins. It is rare, powerful, dangerous. Leora backed toward the wall, her eyes darting for an escape. The docking ports were open, but soldiers in black armor stood at each one, their rifles held steady. Behind them, the dark Hunter-class ship waited like a silent beast. The commander stopped just a few feet away, half human, half Relian. The last of a warrior race we erased from the stars. You should not even exist, and yet, here you are. She swallowed hard, her heart pounding so loud it hurt. I do not want anything from you. A small, cold smile touched his lips. It does not matter what you want. The galaxy will burn soon, and you will either burn with it or command the flames. I intend to make sure it is the latter. Before she could answer, 2 soldiers stepped forward. In a blur, they grabbed her arms. She tried to twist free, but their grip was like iron. The commander nodded, and the soldiers began pulling her toward the waiting ship. No. Her voice echoed across the bay. She dug her feet into the floor, but the soldiers barely slowed. Her eyes flashed faintly, a pulse of silver threatening to rise, but her fear kept it locked inside. Her mother's voice came from the shadows. Let her go. Leora turned sharply. Her mother was standing in the maintenance bay entrance, her hands clutching a small plasma cutter. Behind her, her father stepped into the light, carrying a heavy repair hammer in both hands. The commander did not even look surprised. Ah, the parents. Brave but foolish. Her father stepped forward. You will not take her. The commander's soldiers moved instantly, raising their rifles. Leora's breath caught in her throat. Stop. She shouted, but the words came too late. The first soldier fired a flash of blue plasma, streaked toward her father. He swung the hammer, deflecting the shot, but the force knocked him to his knees. Her mother rushed forward, swinging the plasma cutter at the nearest soldier. Sparks burst in the air as the blade scraped armor, but the soldier struck her hard in the chest. She fell back against the wall, gasping. No. Leora's voice tore through the bay, raw and shaking. The glow in her eyes returned, brighter now, uncontrolled. The soldiers holding her stumbled back, as if an invisible pressure was pushing against them. The commander watched her closely, his expression unreadable. Yes, he murmured. The air trembled, loose tools rattled across the floor. A low hum rose from nowhere, the same hum that had filled the training hall days earlier. Leora felt something in her chest open, not like a door, but like a sun breaking through clouds. She could unleash it now. She could end this, and yet a part of her hesitated. If she let it out fully, she did not know if she could stop. The commander seemed to sense her conflict. He stepped closer, his voice low. Do it. Show me. Leora's breath came fast. The silver light flickered stronger, but then her father's voice cut through. Leora, do not give him what he wants. Her control faltered. The light dimmed just enough for the soldiers to regain their hold. In seconds, she was pulled toward the Hunter-class ship once more. Her mother tried to rise, but another soldier pinned her down. Her father struggled against 2 armed guards, shouting her name until the sound was swallowed by the bay's thick air. Leora was dragged up the ramp of the dark ship. Inside, the walls were smooth and black, the lights dim like the glow of distant moons. The air was cold and smelled faintly of metal and something older, the scent of things that had seen too many wars. The soldiers forced her into a small cell. The door sealed with a hiss, leaving only a thin strip of light along the floor. She pressed her hands to the cold wall, her heart still racing. Through the metal, she thought she could hear the low thrum of the ship's engines as it undocked. They were leaving. Somewhere beyond the wall, the commander's voice carried through the corridor. Set course for the Rift World. The training begins there. The engines roared softly, and Leora felt the shift of weight as the ship pulled away from Varela Station. She pictured her parents growing smaller and smaller behind her, trapped. On the station, with no way to follow, she sank to the floor, pulling her knees to her chest. The cell was silent, except for her own breathing in her mind. She saw flashes, her father standing against the soldiers, her mother falling against the wall, Veric's stunned face in the training hall. The memory of the power inside her pulsed again, warmer now, almost alive. The commander wanted her to use it. He wanted to shape it, control it. But she made herself a promise. If she ever unleashed it again, it would not be for him. She looked toward the strip of light under the cell door. Her eyes burned faintly silver. They thought they were taking her to be a weapon for their wars, but they had no idea what they had brought aboard their ship. Asterisk, the Hunter-class ship glided through the void like a shadow, cutting across the stars. Its engines made no sound. Its weapons remained hidden, but every crew member moved with the calm confidence of those who had never lost a hunt. In the heart of the ship, behind 3 sealed doors, Leora sat in her cell, waiting. She did not know how much time had passed. The cold walls gave no hint of day or night. The hum of the engines was constant, a reminder that they were taking her farther and farther from home. She thought of her parents. She thought of Varela Station. She thought of the way the commander had looked at her, not with hate, but with a strange hunger. She had seen that look before, on the faces of predators. The cell door hissed open. 2 soldiers entered, their black armor reflecting the dim lights. "Stand," one ordered. Leora rose slowly. The soldiers took position on either side of her and marched her down the narrow corridor. Every few meters, more soldiers stood guard, their hands resting on their weapons. They stopped at a wide chamber with walls of dark steel. The air was colder here, sharper. The floor was marked with strange patterns that glowed faintly silver. The commander stood at the center, waiting. His silver eyes caught the light in a way that made them seem almost alive. "Welcome, Leora," he said calmly. "This is where you will begin to understand who you truly are." She met his gaze but said nothing. He gestured to the glowing patterns. "These are resonance fields. They will awaken your blood. You will step inside. You will feel the call of your ancestors, and you will obey me." The soldiers shoved her forward. The moment her foot touched the glowing floor, something deep inside her stirred. A sound like a heartbeat, but not her own, filled the air. The silver lines pulsed in time with it, and heat spread through her chest, her arms, her legs. Her vision blurred. She felt taller, heavier, stronger. The commander stepped closer. "Yes, let it rise." For a moment, she almost did. The power inside her wanted to answer. It wanted to pour out and fill the room, to burn through every wall between her and the stars. But then she remembered. Her parents on the docking bay floor, her father's voice telling her not to give the commander what he wanted. Her eyes sharpened. No. The commander tilted his head. You do not have a choice. He signaled to the soldiers. One struck her across the face. Another kicked her legs from under her. She hit the floor hard. The pain cracked something open inside her. Not submission, but rage. The hum grew louder. The silver lines flared. The air rippled like water. Liora rose slowly, her hair lifting as if caught in a wind that did not exist. Her eyes burned bright silver now, the light spilling out into the room. The soldiers raised their rifles, but the first shot never came. The moment their fingers touched the triggers, their weapons twisted in their hands as if pulled apart by invisible claws. The commander smiled faintly. Yes, show me. She did. The power burst from her like a wave of fire and lightning, tearing. Across the chamber, the walls groaned. The floor cracked. The soldiers were thrown back, their armor sparking. The ship's alarms screamed, "Contain her." The commander shouted, but it was too late. She was already moving, faster than sight. One soldier fell, then another, each knocked down by strikes too quick to see. The commander drew a weapon of his own, a blade of dark metal that pulsed with energy. He swung, and the air split where it passed, but Leora caught the blade in her bare hand. The metal hissed against her skin, but did not cut. She pushed forward, sending him sliding back across the floor. "You will never control me," she said, her voice steady and loud. The lights in the chamber exploded. The ceiling split open, exposing the cold black of space above. She could feel the entire ship trembling under her will, with a single thought. She reached beyond the walls, to the engines, to the power core. The Hunter-class ship groaned like a wounded beast. The commander's silver eyes widened. "You will destroy us all." "Good," she said. The power core ruptured. Light and heat filled the ship. Soldiers screamed. The hull cracked in the chaos. Leora moved toward the opening in the ceiling. Space stretched above her, endless and calling. Her body lifted from the floor, wrapped in a halo of silver fire. The last thing the commander saw was her eyes, bright as stars. Before the explosion consumed him, the Hunter-class ship tore itself apart in a burst of silver light, a flare, so bright it could be seen from planets away. Far across the galaxy, on Varela Station, her parents stood at the viewport. They had heard the rumors. They had seen the flash in the distance. They did not know what had happened, but deep in their hearts, they felt it. Their daughter was alive, somewhere in the drifting wreckage. Leora floated among the stars, her power still burning inside her. She was free. The Empire had wanted a weapon. Instead, they had created something the galaxy would never forget.